everyone, a warm welcome back to this channel. And for those of you who are new here, my name is Freddy. A warm welcome to you too. So joining us in today's video, playing an active role, will be my cat, Tiger Lily, sleeping comfortably behind us. Anyway, jokes aside, just ignore her. So, in one of my previous videos, I've shared my preference for Holotech crank sets. I know, not everyone's cup of tea, and that's totally fine. And I've briefly explained the reasons behind my preference. I've recently gotten myself a set of Praxis Zayante Carbon Crank arms for my Avro bike, and we'll be briefly discussing them in today's video. It's not going to be a review, but just sharing some personal thoughts on why I picked them, as well as to take you through the entire installation process at the workshop, just in case you're interested. So let's get down to today's video, shall we? I know, in the introductory video of the Avro bike, I clearly mentioned that I'll be more than happy to settle for the Shimano 105 crankset. But as with all bike stuff, the more we read, the more fanciful ideas get into our head, that totally sways us off course. I'm sure most of you will be able to relate, and that's really how we tread down this poisonous path of bike modification. Anyway, what have attracted me to the Praxis Zayante Carbon Crank arms? I got mine from Elite Custom and was surfing their website one day when I saw a very interesting comparison of these against other high-end crank arms, such as the THM Clavicular M3 carbon crank arms, as well as the E-Wings titanium crank arms, and that comparison made total sense to me. I won't go into details here, but for those of you who are interested as to what has been said, I will share the link in the description box below, and you can just have a read. Long story short, the Praxis Zayante Carbon Crank arms sits nicely in between the two other high-end crank arms in terms of weight, but comes in a lot lower when we think about it from a dollars per gram perspective. And that really is a very attractive value proposition to me. And no, to be honest, it's just a really good excuse for me to justify the purchase, so never mind me. Okay, another reason is that the Praxis Zayante Carbon Crank arms is modular in nature, which you will see in the assembly video later, what I mean. And it's pretty easy for me to switch from a single chainring setup to a double chainring setup. And this offers a good level of flexibility for me to use it on my road bike or TT bike if I ever choose to step away from foldable bicycles. So okay, honestly, those two reasons are just excuses. The main reason is that I haven't tried carbon crank arms before and thought it would be cool. So it's really just that perceived cool factor in my head. That's the main reason. Okay, let us take a closer look at the crankset before heading down to the shop. I've changed my mind. I don't want to assemble all these first before heading down to the shop because I noticed that there are some areas which needs to be greased down and torqued down correctly, and I'm really quite lazy to whip out the grease as well as torque wrench from the storeroom today. So I have here with me the drive side of the crank arms, and I've chosen the M30 version, which I believe this is 30 mm in diameter, slightly thicker than usual. I believe the usual would be 24 mm, but you know what, I'm not sure. I know that this is thicker. And what this means is that it will translate to a stiffer spindle, hopefully helping with power transfer. But we'll see. Earlier on I mentioned that this is modular in the sense that, as you can see here, we have here the spider, which the chainring is to be mounted on, right? But before that, these would have to be mounted onto the crank arms using these bolts here. Okay, and it's pretty flexible in the sense that in order for me to change out to a dual chainring setup, all I need to do is to switch this out, change to a spider which allows me to put dual chain rings, and I'm done. So it's not an uncommon thing, but I think this setup and function allows some good level of flexibility in case I would like to use this on TT or road bikes in the future. So good to have. Let's just move to talk about the chain rings that I've chosen a little bit. I've done some quick calculations and have chosen to go with the 56 teeth Past Quest chain ring. This is made out of a solid piece of aluminum. Okay, there are no holes drilled onto the chain ring to save weight, except for the mounting holes here. So it's pretty stiff. If you look from the other angle, I'm trying to flex it, and it really can't be flexed. It's pretty stiff, and all you can see is the movement of the chainring. Okay, what has been done in their attempt to try to save weight is to do these minor cutouts at the rear but I reckon it's not doing much to weight savings because it still feels quite heavy. Anyway, if the entire project for your crankset has a top priority of weight savings, you might want to go with the carbon chainring, and that will save you by about 100 grams or so. That's quite a lot considering, like, you know, a normal crankset setup is likely to be about 600-700 grams, I don't know, right? So that will save you a lot of weight. For me, I have my reservations about some of the carbon chain rings out there because they flex too much, and I think it will cause a very squashy ride as you put power onto the pedals. So I don't really like that. I really like a stiff power transfer sort of feel. I can't quantify it, but it's just a feeling. Okay, so yeah, these are good, these are stiff and well made. Okay, so as it is, I think this entire setup that we see here is not the lightest, likely to land about 700 grams, but let's find out at the shop later. But yeah, pretty happy at first glance. You know, at least I know that all of these are made out of good materials by reputable companies, and it gives me that peace of mind knowing that it will not crack under hard paddling, which is, you know, commonly reported nowadays by fellow hobbyists online. So yeah, peace of mind, happy with how it looks at first glance. Let's just head down to the shop for the exciting part. Alright, moment of truth. This comes in at about 730 grams. Yeah. Alright, so I'm just done here at Allen's. I'm now just going to take a short ride home from Ubi just to see how the crankset feels. Hopefully it turns out fine. Alright, so I have about 60 to 70 kilometers on this crankset already. So it's about time for me to share the top 3 thoughts that I have on them so far. Let's start off with the not so good stuff. My main gripe about this is that it is slightly on the pricier side, but as mentioned earlier, when compared to other high-end cranksets, they seem to offer good value proposition. And considering how well made they are, that peace of mind and that self-perceived bling factor might be worthwhile. But look, if it takes so much convincing for me to feel that it's worthwhile, it's probably pricey for me. Swapping out from the stock square bottom bracket crankset to this Praxis crankset system has saved me about 400 plus grams. Having said that, I do not think that this is an impressive figure, nor is the weight savings unique to this crankset system. Because if you recall, when I tried to swap out my original crankset on my 360 to the LiQWYD Holotech ones, that has saved me about 550 plus grams, which is a lot more. I think the difference lies in the thicker cross section of the crank arms, as well as the chainring that I have chosen. Having said that, you know what, if you are a weight weenie, you might want to go for carbon spider arms as well as carbon chainring. That will help you save even more weight. But as for me, I really prefer that stiffer feel on the pedal, which is why I really wouldn't mind on the weight compromise here. Now it's down to my favorite aspect of this crankset system, which is the stiffness. The pedaling feel and stiffness felt so much more inspiring as compared to the Light Pro ones that I had. Now don't get me wrong, the Light Pro ones that I had felt great too, and to be honest, I did not expect myself to notice any difference going into this. Now I can't quantify it, but I guess second moment of area might be able to help explain some of the additional stiffness that I perceive. Thicker cross section on the crank arms, as well as the thicker spindles, 24mm versus 30mm, might have been contributors to this additional stiffness. Now these are just initial impressions. I haven't been feeling quite well over the past couple of weeks, so I haven't been able to bring this on a time trial to really put some watts on it to test it. But if this view changes, I'll update you. Anyway, this concludes today's video. It's about to rain soon. I better continue making my way home. As always, my opinions for your conclusions. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.